Can you hear it? Can you hear the... There are moments when the world fades black. There's a faint noise that echoes in your ear, but is instead just far enough to ignore. Your heartbeat slows down. Your body moves ahead of your thoughts. Mistakes stops happening, and time itself stops behaving the way you expect it to. Athletes call it the game slowing down. Musicians say they vanish into the sound, while filmmakers say the shot finds itself. It's the moment hesitation is left behind, and all that's left is instinct. You're no longer thinking, you're simply moving. And when it's over, you can't explain how it happened. Only that, for a brief moment, everything felt exactly right. Let me paint a scene. You're playing a game of basketball. Your team is down by 8 points with 40 seconds left on the clock. The crowd is loud. The clock is ticking. What do you do?
Obviously upset with Manu. Here's McGrady for three. Rockets looking for a quick shot. Bowen is all over McGrady. Foul is picked up. No four-point play. McGrady over Bowen for three. Yes! Here comes McGrady. No timeouts remaining. McGrady for the win. Yeah! 1.7 to go.
You're in Game 7 of the RLCS World Championship.
And we go into our final game of Season 5 of the Rocket League Championship Series.
The biggest stage in the world, and your team is down 1 point. Your entire season, the practice, the sacrifice, all the effort, all comes down to this single moment. What do you do?
Tries to clear. It is almost there. It just hits the floor. But the Panda puts it a long way. And it's almost there. Justin keeps it alive. Turnovers are there. Bounces into the corner. Energy still around. Justin is there for the shot. Justin! This is Rocket League!
Now imagine something quieter. You're listening to a song, maybe a freestyle, something about the lyrics, the beat, the rhythm, pulls you in. Your surroundings begins to fade out. You're completely absorbed, so locked in that, without realizing it, you've slipped into another world. Many people describe this state as being tunnel vision, having a spike of adrenaline, or just relying on instinct. But no matter what you're doing, whether it's playing a sport, creating art, making music, or fighting in general, there's a zone that a select few people can reach. A zone where everything clicks. A zone few people have yet to experience. And a zone many people spend their entire lives chasing, trying to relive that exact feeling. There's many names for this feeling: being locked in, hyper-focused, a different side of you taking over. But the one I and many others choose to call it is being in a flow state.
That day, I suddenly realized that I was no longer driving it conscious, and I was in a different dimension for me. The circuit for me was a tunnel, which I was just going, and I realized I was well beyond my conscious understanding.
Getting that zone is just a supreme confidence that you know it's going in.
I feel like I'm on drugs. I feel like I'm in that mental state without doing anything.
I see these shots, I see these sequences, and I don't shy away from them.
When you're in a flow state, you tend to perform better at the task that you're currently engaged in.
The feeling is unexplainable because it's like a movie. It's like when you're watching a movie, you know, when they break it down in slow motion.
Michael Jordan tells me one day he wants to be the best player that's ever played here. And I said, well, you got to work harder than you did in high school. He said, I worked as hard as everybody else. I said, oh, excuse me. I thought you just told me you want to be the best player to ever play here. He said, I'm going to show you. nobody will ever work as hard as I work.
So, what exactly does flow mean? Well, the textbook definition defines it as, quote, a positive mental state, experienced when you're completely absorbed, focused, and involved in an activity. Time passes without you noticing, and you're free from distractions, boredom, and self-consciousness. Not a bad definition, but a bit too simple for my liking. Others refer to flow as,
flow is more than just concentrating or paying attention. Psychologists go so far as to define flow as an altered state of consciousness with several defining features.
It refers to those moments of total absorption when we get so focused on the task at hand that everything else disappears. So our sense of self, our sense of self-consciousness, they vanish. Time dilates, which means sometimes it slows down. You get that freeze frame effect. Familiar to anybody who's seen The Matrix or been in a car crash. Sometimes it speeds up and 5 hours will pass by in like 5 minutes. And throughout, all aspects of performance, so mental and physical, go through the roof.
Then there's a side of the internet that just sees it as being in a state of almost bliss. The moment where everything seems to just connect. Moments like the cadence or rhythm in a song, doing a test, or breezing through an assignment that's due in one sitting. Eating wings and fries while also getting water. The internet obviously sees flow state as something I can't quite grasp. Okay. Dude, we might be evolving backwards. Flow seems to originate from a lot of things. To trigger them, one must be hyper-focused, and there has to be some sort of complexity to the task at hand. It has to spark emotions of curiosity, passion, and many, many more. I like to think of flow as a mental state, where you become completely absorbed in what you're doing. Your focus becomes so strong that distractions fade away, and action starts to feel automatic. You're not overthinking each move. Time feels dilated, either slowing down or speeding up. And when it's over, it can be hard to explain how you performed so well. Flow isn't the same as adrenaline or chaos, however. While adrenaline can make you feel rushed or frantic, flow feels calm and controlled. Even during intense moments, you're alert but not anxious. The mind quiets down, allowing the body or creativity to take over. This is why people often describe being in a flow state as being peaceful, even when the situation itself is high pressure. But what I want to know is the psychology and origins of who coined the term flow state. How does one enter that zone? Can it be trained? What's the science behind it? And how do you know when you're in that state? Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, otherwise known as the godfather of flow, was a Hungarian-American psychologist, best known for introducing and developing the concept of flow. He spent decades seeking to answer the question of what makes life worth living when everything else is stripped away. After witnessing the devastation of World War II as a child, he noticed that many people lost their sense of purpose and fuel to keep pushing forward. In a TED Talk where he spoke about the secret to happiness, he said, quote, I grew up in Europe and World War II caught me when I was between 7 and 10 years old. And I realized how few of the grown-ups that I knew were able to withstand the tragedies that the war visited on them. How few of them could even resemble a normal, contented, satisfied, happy life. Once their jobs, their home, their security was destroyed by the war. So I became interested in understanding what contributed to a life that was worth living.
About 40 years ago, I began to look at creative people, first artists and scientists and so forth, trying to understand what made them feel that it was worth essentially spending their life doing things for which many of them didn't expect either fame or fortune, but which made their life meaningful and worth doing.
He called this optimal experience flow, describing it as a state where self-consciousness fades, time distorts, and the activity becomes rewarding in itself. Through interviews, diaries, and experience sampling methods, he identified consistent patterns across artists, athletes, surgeons, gamers, writers, and everyday people. He learned that when people enter a flow state, they aren't relaxed or passive. Based on his findings, he later on would write a book called Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, which brought these ideas to a wider audience. While his study focused on what people experience during flow, it doesn't really go into detail of what's happening under the hood, the neuroscience, and things our brain experiences when we're in that zone. When someone is in a flow state, the brain shifts modes that instead are more suited for being in a hyper-focused state. Your prefrontal cortex, the brain's command center, decreases activity, resulting in a process known as transient hypofrontality. At the same time, your attention becomes very focused on one thing. The brain filters out irrelevant information and channels mental energy towards one goal. During this process, you release a huge amounts of dopamine, making you feel good. Sensory information is processed more cleanly, making the world feel vivid yet simple, and you end up with a feeling of complete absorption, where effort feels natural and performance improves. So now that we have a better understanding of how and where flow comes from, let's look at some examples, with the first being what the experience is really like. When athletes enter flow, the sport stops feeling like a series of separate actions and instead becomes one continuous moment. Movements happen without conscious effort. Reactions are instant, and athletes feel completely in sync with their body and surroundings. This leads to the question of, when does flow actually happen? Flow appears when skill and challenge are perfectly balanced. If the task is too easy, the mind wanders. But if it's too hard, anxiety starts to take over. But when we're pushed just enough between the two, the brain recognizes this and locks in. Athletes adapt faster, take smarter risks, and moves with such confidence that they start trying new things they would have never done had they not been in a flow state.
It got to a point where I was just out there trying shit, one leg off the wrong foot, bump fades off my right shoulder. I'm not even a right shoulder bump fade guy.
This is why streaks happen in sports. Heat checks, perfect runs, dominant stretches, or when a driver enters a state where the track narrows in their mind. Corners, braking points, apexes, and exits connect to one continuous rhythm. You can see these effects in any sport, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, track, esports, it doesn't really matter. Damian Lillard's 37-foot game winner against OKC. Mbappe having the world at the edge of their seats, single-handedly shifting the momentum in the World Cup. Daigo perfectly parrying every hit at EVO, to name a few, are moments when a person is in another zone. These same ideas are explored in sports anime, which exaggerated a bit more, but that's pretty normal. It is anime. Haiku players enter moments where the world narrows, the crowd disappears, and the only thing visible is them and the ball. Blue Lock directly names and visualizes flow as a heightened mental state, where instinct and confidence merges. Kuroko no Basket slows time and sharpens awareness when one is able to tap into that zone. Flow in anime is earned. Characters usually struggle, fail, and train before entering it. It appears at the moments when preparation finally meets pressure. That's why these scenes always hit different. There are moments in the story where winning a point or scoring a goal isn't the main focus, but about a character fully becoming the athlete they've worked to be. That's why flow is often remembered as one of the most powerful experiences in sports. Not just because of the results, but because everything feels aligned exactly as it should be. Flow state in mediums like films or an anime, even a video game, works a little differently than how it appears in real life. In live action films, the character may look completely absorbed, but reality is, the person who's in this flow state is an actor or actress playing the role. When a person delivers a scene so powerful that it pulls you in, it makes you forget you're watching someone act.
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
That's often because the performer is locked into the moment, fully focused on timing, emotion, and presence all at once. Leonardo DiCaprio in one battle after another, and his ability to embody a man constantly at war with himself. Cillian Murphy's ability to show both the intellectual obsession and moral weight Oppenheimer has in the film. Denzel in Training Day and his ability to take a script and heighten it to new lengths. Actors aside, the same sense of total absorption appears within the world of films themselves. When we step back from performances and look at the characters, we begin to notice moments where the story slows, the noise falls away, and action takes over instinct. Spider-Man moving faster than thought to save everyone from Electro. Or that moment in the Spider-Man game where the fallen crane is coming down, and you see this man totally locked in. The final race segment in Speed Racers, or the hallway fight scene in The Raid. These scenes aren't just displays of skill, they are depictions of characters losing themselves in the task at hand. It's at this point when conscious thought dissolves into pure execution that film naturally transitions into animations and anime, where flow state is often portrayed not as explosive, but as a quiet disappearance of the self, rather than a burst of excitement. Animation often slows down, backgrounds soften, and dialogue fade, signaling that the character's attention has narrowed to the present moment. Some of my favorite moments are when Itadori and Todo fought Hanami in Jujutsu Kaisen, or when Gojo reached a state of total bliss, where he quite literally starts floating. Madara versus the entire Shinobi Alliance, Puss in Boots confronting death for the last time, Miles' leap of faith, Batman saving Gotham in a single night. Animation has a unique advantage in showing flow, since it's something that is constructed from intention and not captured from reality. Every frame is chosen and drawn. It can reshape time to match a character's mental state, and seconds can stretch to minutes. A single breath can be held across multiple cuts, or an entire sequence can unfold with no dialogue at all. Outside of films or anime, video games give a unique look into flow state. We could look at performances from motion capture, or moments where voice actors give a performance so memorable that it sticks with you no matter the hundreds of other games you play. In the medium where you're watching rather than playing, audiences remain outside the moment. Even when something feels completely immersive, what you're watching is a person experience being in a flow state. You can admire it and feel its intensity, but the burden of maintaining that state never rests on you. Games removes that distance since it's hands-on and interactive. When you play a game, you have free reign on how to play, what to do, how you want to approach a fight, really anything. Flow happens when the game you're playing stops feeling like commands and starts feeling like instinct. It's the reason why when you're playing a game like Sekiro and you reach a point where every feels second nature, or when you're playing a fighting game and no matter what move is thrown in front of you, you always have an answer. Or the times when you're playing a shooter and it feels like you just can't miss.
A lot of impact. It's just Messi polishing his crown.
It's here at this point where instinct replaces instruction, that flow in games begin to resemble one of its purest forms: music. Flow in music is perhaps the most literal form of losing oneself. There is no character to hide behind, and no visual spectacle required. Only sound, timing, and attention. Whether you're listening or performing, music has a unique ability to pull consciousness out of language and into sensation. Music is a universal language that anyone can understand. For listeners, flow often arrives unexpectedly. A song comes on, and suddenly the space around you disappears. You might still be walking, driving, or sitting still. The rhythm syncs with your breathing. Melodies triggers memory and feelings without words, and minutes passes unnoticed. Music can reveal the emotions of a person. It acts as a tool that exposes the inner self, offering a glimpse into the soul, and teaching you a great deal about someone through the way they touch, shape, and expresses sounds on the instrument. Miyamoto Dai in Blue Giant, Nana, Yukio in Beck, or someone like Andrew Neiman final drum solo that shows the climax of the film and the result of everything he's experienced all coming out in this one scene. The movie Soul, when Joe finally gets his chance to perform with one of his idols. He doesn't fully know what's being played at first. Instead of thinking, he lets the music carry him, pulling him into a different space. A world where nothing exists except him and the sound unfolding in the moment. Then there's a side of music where if you just look at live performances, we can see a person be consumed and transformed entirely. Icons like Michael Jackson to Jimi Hendrix to modern day artists like K-Dot, Kanye, Travis Scott, and many, many more. What makes flow state in music distinct from other mediums is responsibility. There is no cut, no animation trick, no safety net. If flow breaks, the sound immediately reflects it. When everything clicks, tempo, touch, emotion, the self disappears because it has to. There's no room for doubt or distraction. And this way, music may be the purest expression of flow. It doesn't represent losing oneself, but instead requires it. The moment you think about how well you're playing, you're already out. Flow in music exists only as long as attention, emotion, and action remain perfectly aligned. And when it ends, all that's left is the echo and the feeling that, for a brief moment, you are somewhere else. So why are we obsessed with these moments? Why chase this feeling? Well, it's because it's one of the rare moments where the constant chatter of the mind, the doubts, the fears, all self-judgment falls away. It's a moment in time where we truly feel alive and present in the moment where action, attention, and emotion align perfectly. Whether through training, creating, competing, or even watching others perform. Flow lets us step outside of ordinary consciousness, experience a sense of control and clarity, and feel connected to something larger than ourselves.